Israel has been using gas weapons on UN peacekeepers. So, for those of you who don't know, Israel's been making incursions into southern Lebanon because they want death, and in order to get more death, you need like people to kill. Kind of how death works, as it turns out. The problem is that they've been having some difficulties. First of all, unlike Hamas, an emaciated insurgency effort, barely funded, barely armed, Hezbollah is effectively an actual military, heavily entrenched, with the sole purpose of fighting Israel. So there's really no easy way through that. Also, in addition to that, in southern Lebanon, there are UN peacekeeping groups. Very recently, just a few days ago, while I was on vacation, an Irish contingent of UN peacekeepers stood their ground facing Israeli bombardment. The threat to them was not from Hezbollah. The IDF unironically used them as human shields, setting up fortifications and firing positions near where the peacekeepers were and daring Hezbollah to return fire. The IDF unironically using peacekeepers as human shields. Like, basically as evil as you can get in terms of how you're conducting this military affair. UN raises concerns over IDF tanks placed close to Irish posts. They're deliberately putting them close to the post. Over almost 20 pieces of Israeli military equipment located at a newly created firing position close to the UN post currently manned by Irish troops in southern Lebanon, basically like baiting Hezbollah to try to fire them. Hezbollah, because they are better than the IDF, apparently didn't take the bait. I'm pretty sure, however, though, that at this point, the IDF has already like abandoned or compromised that position. But in case you were wondering how we reacted to it, or at least some people, former White House advisor urges Israel to carpet bomb Irish peacekeepers in Lebanon and use napalm. Yeah, drop napalm all over it. So that's where this is Zionism, right? You know, they're calling Hezbollah the most moral army in history. Zionists really hate Ireland because Ireland has been a pretty pro-Palestinian country in terms of like how the Republic of Ireland has been pretty openly pro-Palestinian. So they really, really don't like the Irish, which is, you know, okay. In response to these increasing incursions, which, by the way, have stalled, the IDF is making less progress than they expected because, again, Hezbollah is an actual military force and not just an insurgency group huddling in the ruins of Gaza. The IDF has not made as much progress as they have expected. American media is still not referring to this as an invasion, even though this is objectively an invasion. Israeli tanks have made their way into southern Lebanon, a large number of troops. It is like, this is not a small military operation. This is not like special forces moving in. This is objectively like the army has moved into southern Lebanon. We're still not calling it an invasion because, again, it's Western media. We're cucked. Despite calling this a red line and saying that we would, Biden, indicated that this would be like a red line with regards to American support for Israel. Our current strategy now is, of course, what red line? We're just going to let this play out. There are no red lines. This is going to keep happening no matter what. Thank you. Yes. The IDF fired on UN peacekeepers. There we go. That was how that resolved. They fired and ended up destroying one of their watchtowers, which collapsed and injured 2 people. 2 peacekeepers were injured after an IDF Merkava tank fired its weapon at an observation tower at UNIFIL's headquarters in Nakura, directly hitting it and causing them to fall. So to be clear, they didn't get caught in the crossfire with Hezbollah. An IDF tank pointed its cannon at an observation tower held by the UN and fired at it, just directly firing at the United Nations. No like ambiguity of like, oh, it's like crossfire, oh, we didn't see the target. Like they just turned the cannon and fire. There's no, it's just directly fired at the United Nations peacekeepers. So that's all going great. And yes, to get back to this, so now we're caught up on the context. Now we're caught up, on how things are going, how well things are going. This wasn't an accident. This is what those towers look like. Yeah, no. Again, like to be maximally clear, the IDF wants blood. They want to kill because they're a fascist military force full of like gunned up lunatic conscripts who want blood, and they turned the cannon of their tank and they fired at this. There was no ambiguity on whether or not it was controlled by Hamas. Yeah, is this the Hezbollah flag right here, the UN flag? Yeah. Anyway, so here's the UNIFIL tweet thread. Early this morning, peacekeepers at a UN position in Ramya observed 3 platoons of IDF soldiers crossing the blue line into Lebanon. At around 4:30 a.m., while peacekeepers were in shelters, 2 IDF Merkava tanks destroyed the position's main gate and forcibly entered the position. Again, this is a UN position. This is a United Nations position. They requested multiple times the base turn out its lights, so we can't see them. The tanks left about 45 minutes later after UNIFIL protested through our liaison mechanism, saying that IDF presence was putting peacekeepers in danger. At around 6:40 a.m., the peacekeepers at the same position reported the firing of several rounds 100 meters north, which emitted smoke. Despite putting on protective masks, 15 peacekeepers suffered effects, including skin irritation and gastrointestinal reaction after the smoke entered the camp. The peacekeepers are receiving treatment. So, angered by the UN peacekeeper fortifications, the IDF broke through and fired chemical weapons in the vicinity of the UN peacekeepers, blanketing them with, I don't know, I'm not a war crime expert, some kind of gas. Chlorine, I don't know. I'm not going to humiliate myself by taking guesses on which it could be. In addition, yesterday, IDF soldiers stopped a critical UNIFIL logistical movement near Meis Edj Jebel, denying it passage. The critical movement could not be completed. For the 4th time in as many days, we remind the IDF and all actors of their obligations to ensure the safety and security of UN personnel and property and to respect the inviolability of UN premises at all times. Breaching and entering a UN position is a further flagrant violation of the International Law and Security Council Resolution 1701 from 2006. What happened in 2006? Any deliberate attack on peacekeepers is a grave violation of international humanitarian law and Resolution 1701. UNIFIL's mandate provides for its freedom of movement in its area of operation, and any restriction on this is a violation of Resolution 1701. We have requested an explanation from the IDF for these shocking violations. Nice. Yes, it was the last invasion of Lebanon. Also relevant, New York Times story from about an hour ago, U.S. troops are now being deployed to Israel for the first time since October 7th. To Israel? U.S. to deploy missile defense system in about... That's not a defense system! Missiles this big aren't used in the Iron Dome. Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Battery. Is this part of David's sling? At the direction of the President, Secretary Austin authorized the deployment of a Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Battery and associated crew of U.S. military personnel to Israel to help bolster Israel's air defense. Okay, it's anti-air then, gotcha. Unprecedented attacks against Israel on April 13th. Yeah. Okay, anti-ballistic missile, okay. You'll forgive me for my reflexive, yeah, we're giving Israel defensive weapons and the missiles are like 20 feet long. You know, that's cool, man. That is the most expensive surface-to-air missile the U.S. has. Nothing but the best for our greatest ally. Iran is a greater ally to us in the Middle East than Israel is. So yeah, anyway, chemical weapons attacks on the United Nations. That's cool. That's cool. Oh, you're concerned about the cost? That's anti-Semitic.
I'd like to appeal directly to the UN Secretary General. It is time for you to remove UNIFIL from Hezbollah's strongholds and from the fighting areas. The IDF has repeatedly asked for this and has been met with repeated refusals.
Yeah, they outrank you. It's the United Nations. The United Nations peacekeepers wouldn't be very effective if any fascist government could just say, move from this other country's territory. Can these peacekeepers please move? We're trying to do war.
Aimed at providing a human shield to Hezbollah terrorists.
Mr. Secretary General, get the UNIFIL forces out of harm's way. It should be done right now, immediately.
Remember what I said before about Democrats giving leftists a bitter pill to swallow? This is, again, like all of this, this is on the Democrats. Like, this is all on them. Biden could, like, all of the constant enabling, more weapons, more coverage, more blocking UN votes, everything. It's all on the Democrats. It's been his State Department, his presidency. There's no getting around that. I know it would have been optically difficult, but clearly tying yourself to this anchor before it got thrown off the side of the boat was not like an effective strategy. He wants Trump to win no matter what.
Well, in a statement released by UNIFIL just a short time ago, the organisation said this: "We remind the IDF and all actors of their obligations to ensure the safety and security of UN personnel and property." It went on to say, breaching and entering a UN position is a further flagrant violation.
How do liberals see this and continue to be Zionists? They don't see this. Once again, it's the same issue. We're looking at Al Jazeera English. Do you think CNN, ABC, MSNBC are covering this? Go check. They might talk about it, but they'll use like both sides language. I did check. You can even go to Reuters or AP News. It's the same. The conflict continues in southern Lebanon as Israel makes an effort to defend itself against Hezbollah insurgency. UN claims that it was damaged. Like you could. There's a million ways that they massage the statement.
Violation of international law, and any deliberate attack on peacekeepers is a grave violation of international humanitarian law. We have requested an explanation from the IDF from these shocking violations. Well, we have two correspondents covering this latest escalation. Ode is in Amman.
Perfect. Thank you, Annie. From Reuters, ostensibly one of the better outlets here. UN says Israeli tanks burst into base. Israel gives different account. This is what Americans are getting. There you go. In case you're wondering how people can still be... What the Western media is doing with regards to Israel, it's the same thing that Fox News is doing with regards to, like, news about Trump. You're not even exposing people to the information. They objectively use their tanks to burst into the base. There is no other account of this. It factually happened. But it doesn't matter. They're given their marching orders. The Western media is fully in line with this like broad coalition of fascist military-industrial complex interests that have unified behind providing uncritical support to Israel as like a ongoing settler colonial project for Western power in the Middle East, and as for like a playground for fascists to, you know, indicate their continued commitment to the project of brutalizing and killing people of different races. Yeah, the Gates attacked the tank shells. In its version of events, the Israeli military said militants of the Iran-backed group Hezbollah had fired anti-tank missiles at Israeli troops, wounding 25 of them. The attack was very close to a UNIFIL post, and a tank helping evacuate the casualties under fire then backed into the UNIFIL post. Okay, man. Thank you, Biden.
Jordan. That's because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside Israel. But first, let's go to Dorsa Jabari, who's in the...
It's also like the classic tendency of fascist overstatement, where the IDF can't even do a normal lie, where they're like, you know, oh, we miscalculated, or oh, we were under the impression we were under attack. They had to be like, no, we were actually under bombardment by 50 billion Hezbollah insurgents. They were firing a salvo at anti-tank missiles. Our tank commander was backing up as quickly as they could, power drifting across the road in order to dodge the incoming anti-tank shots, and they rammed into the gates of the facility to take cover during a heat of moment. Like, they can never, like, it's always like that, you know? It's all the Democrats, man. It's all the Democrats. Speaking of, Biden calls on Israeli military to stop strikes in UN peacekeepers in Lebanon. I mean, you've been calling for them to do stuff like nonstop for a year now. Has anything happened? No, because there's no teeth behind it. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. President Joe Biden said that he is absolutely positively asking the Israeli military to stop hitting. I love how weak he is, that this is the affirmative statement he makes to the media. Guys, don't worry. I'm definitely, absolutely asking them to stop. Oh, thanks, man. I talked to them in private, and I promise you, in the strongest of language, I requested they please stop. Please.
I want to address the Secretary General of the United Nations directly.
I'm not unconvinced Israel wouldn't nuke the White House if we tried to arrest Netanyahu. Genuinely, yeah. I'm not, like, it's, you have to count on, like, irrationality past a point. Like, yeah, it's a murder-suicide pact. What did you think? Did you think the murder-suicide pact was with a different person? It's with Israel and the United States. It's a rogue
state. It's time to withdraw UNIFIL forces from Hezbollah strongholds and combat zones. The Israeli Defense Forces have requested this repeatedly and faced rejection repeatedly, a rejection entirely aimed at providing a human shield for Hezbollah terrorists. Your refusal to withdraw UNIFIL forces makes them hostages of Hezbollah. This also...
Jesus Christ, dude. Well, the UN, remember, the UN is anti-Semitic.
Endangers them, as well as the lives of our soldiers.
The IDF could, like, kill and every UNIFIL member. I like what literally like if the red line wasn't met a long time ago, you think it wouldn't be met now? Like what does it mean? Like we all know, everyone knows, like all the people in power know what Israel is and what they're doing. Also, yeah, no one cares about Europeans. Can do literally anything they want. Do you think Biden keeps bowing to Israel because he wants to keep selling weapons to them? Sell. You think we're selling weapons to them? You think we're getting money from this? What a nice little perk that would be, you know? Does Israel have ICBMs or just tacticals? That's the best part. They won't tell anyone. Unlike every other, well, not every other, but yeah, no, Israel doesn't want to tell. They want to keep their nuclear capabilities secret, even from their allies. They have ICBMs. 100%. That was fun. That was fun. Did a little Israel segment. Caught up. It's been a little while. You want another one? Netanyahu mulls plan to empty northern Gaza of civilians and cut off aid to those left inside. We're getting to the end game. Hey, this genocide's taking too long. Can you wrap it up? The current plan, or I guess the proposed plan, there has been a reinvigorated wave of attacks in northern Gaza. Are they attacking Hamas? Who knows? And no one cares. There's not even an effort to check. Remember at the beginning of the war when there was all that investigation over whether or not Israel would deliberately bomb the hospital? Remember that? And now it's like, oh yeah, they just kill everyone. Who cares? Like they immediately struck hospitals in Lebanon. Everything in Gaza has been reduced to ash. It doesn't matter. And initially people were like, you idiot, Israel may be bad. They would never deliberately attack a hospital though. They would have to be evil to do that. And then they destroyed literally all the hospital, like everything, literally everything, you know? Well, we're getting to that point again. I don't know if these articles directly mention it, but if I'm not incorrect, it's been a while since any new food entered the Gaza Strip. Am I incorrect in remembering this? No food aid has entered since the 1st of October, nearly 2 weeks ago. Critical food aid lifelines into northern Gaza severed. The UN World Food Program today warned that escalating violence in northern Gaza, again with this language, escalating violence, it's Israel bombing. We don't have, I'm not hearing any reports of Hamas doing anything to the roadways or whatever, is having disastrous impact on food security for thousands of Palestinian families, noting main crossings into the north have been closed and no food aid has entered since the 1st of October. They didn't have a lot of food to coast on. It's not like they've got stocked pantries. Netanyahu is examining a plan to seal off humanitarian aid to northern Gaza in an attempt to starve out Hamas militants, a plan that, if implemented, could trap without food or water hundreds of thousands of Palestinians unwilling or unable to leave their homes. We're entering the end game, guys. Netanyahu, you have to close up the front in the Gaza Strip. It's time to invade Lebanon. But there are still people in the Gaza Strip. We haven't exterminated all of them. Well, gonna have to think of something fast. Israel has issued many evacuation orders for the north throughout the year-long war, the most recent of which was Sunday. The plan proposed to Netanyahu and the Israeli parliament by a group of retired generals would escalate the pressure, giving Palestinians a week to leave the northern third of the Gaza Strip, including Gaza City, before declaring it a closed military zone. Those who remain would be considered combatants. That's great, man. Meaning military regulations would allow troops to kill them. Kind of already been the case, but okay. And denied food, water, medicine, and fuel, according to a copy of the plan given to the Associated Press by its chief architect, who says the plan is the only way to break Hamas in the north and pressure it to release the remaining hostages. I love, we're still clinging to this. Actually, a mass thermobaric execution is the only way to save the hostages. A nanite bomb, a neutron star beam directed into the city of Gaza is the only way to save the hostages. Yeah, man, that's okay. The plan calls for Israel to maintain control over the north for, what a surprise, an indefinite period, to attempt to create a new administration without Hamas splitting the Gaza Strip in two. There has been no decision by the government to fully carry out the so-called general's plan, and it's unclear how strongly it's being considered. I don't want to say they're not implementing this yet. That being said, no food has been entering the north anyway. So I'm not saying they're adopting the general's plan. I'm saying that no food has entered the north since the 1st of October. which is like, it seems like the general's plan might just be a formalization of something they're already implementing, you know? Like 2 weeks without food? I couldn't go that long without an hamburger. When asked if the evacuation orders in northern Gaza marked the first stages of the general's plan, Israeli military spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Nadav Shoshani said no. We have not received a plan like that. But one official with knowledge of the matter said parts of the plan are, wow, already being implemented. So they essentially, like, I'm going to use some language that I think is harsh but completely true. This is like the JQ plan, basically. This is, the war is beginning, things are ramping up. What do we do with all these people we're gathering in concentration camps? Here's a controversial, you know, like, what if we killed all of them? What if we turned all of northern Gaza into essentially like a plan? This is like the final solution, basically. Literally. Like, that is what it is. I don't know how anyone could disagree with that, I guess, is like, it is literally, like, people have already claimed that the Gaza Strip is a concentration camp of a kind, and I agree with that. I think that there is like a value in that comparison. It's not a direct one-to-one, but there is value in the comparison. And the plan here is essentially, what if we literally like cordon off the top third of it, literally make that just an open-air killing camp where we have the right to just gun down anyone inside, block all aid into it, pretend that hostages are somehow going to survive there, I guess, somehow. Like, we're going to pretend about that, you know. And then there will be literally no one left. A second official, who is Israeli, said Netanyahu, quote, had read and studied the plan, like many other plans that have reached him throughout the war, but didn't say whether any of it had been adopted. Again, it is not normal for plans to be, like, considered and maybe put forward into action, but maybe not. Normally, when a military operation is conducted, it's like a pretty open named operation, you know? Like, it's like, okay, here's the plan, here's the strategy, kablamo, this is what we're going with. So for them to go like, are we following the plan? Well, we've implemented some parts of it, but, you know, let's not give the game away. That's not normal. And it reminds me a bit of how Germany didn't officially, like, publicly recognize the final solution as a doctrine that they adopted. It's like the classic Holocaust denier line of, like, you know, Hitler never signed the big document with a red pen saying do the Holocaust, but that's not how it works. You don't need the big red pen. You can do it without the big red pen. And likewise, I guess Netanyahu hasn't employed the big red pen, but no food has entered since October 1st, and they're doing a withdrawal order. Wow, they actually argue that. They're Holocaust deniers. They're not bright. No trucks of food, water, or medicine have entered the north since September 30th. Oh, that's even earlier than October 1st. Okay. According to the UN and the website of the Israeli military agency overseeing humanitarian aid crossings. The U.S. State Department spokesperson has said Washington is against any plan that would bring direct Israeli occupation in Gaza. Pussies. So far, very few Palestinians have heeded the latest evacuation order. You're gonna die, man. I mean, I guess you're gonna die anyway. Like, you know, after they do this in the north of the Gaza Strip, they're going to do it in the south of the Gaza Strip, right? Like, they're cordoning off this, and then they're going to do, like, the next chunk down, and they're going to give the evacuation order, and by the end of it, there's going to be, like, 500,000 Palestinians left. Israeli media reported that Netanyahu told a closed parliamentary defense committee session that he was considering the plan. Ilan said the only way to stop Hamas and bring an end to the year-long war is to prevent access to its aid. They will have to surrender or starve. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to kill every person. It will not be necessary. People will not be able to live up there. The water will dry up. Incredible. Human rights groups are appalled. Really? Only about 100 Palestinians have fled the north since Sunday. At least 400,000 people are trapped in the area. With almost no basic supplies available, hunger is spreading. They're just all, like, straight up dead, right? I'm not, like, it's not like a, oh, here's the depressing glib coverage or whatever. It's just, I mean, you've made it a year since Israel decided to do their Holocaust, and that's impressive. Like, that's, you know, you've got a streak going. It looks like they're trying to wrap things up. I don't really know if there's an out for this. I mean, again, there is one thing that could be done that could save all of them, and that would be Biden growing a pair. And again, like, this is all, and this is why I have like no stomach for whining about the Twitter leftists and the such and such, because again, like, this is the bitter pill you have to swallow. If you vote Democrat, this is what you're voting for. And yeah, Trump would be as bad or worse. At the very least, he would be equal. He certainly wouldn't be raising humanitarian concerns. But like, damn, Democrats, they have not sold themselves well. The pill is genocide. Yeah, we don't know what the death toll is. Again, I don't want to make a fool of myself. I'm no expert. The official death toll is still around 50,000. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 10 times that. I know that's crazy, but like, I'm just ballparking it. Not a lot of food, not a lot of water, not a lot of medicine. Been a year. Just throwing that out there. It's not like anyone's really counting. And after this is all over, whatever paltry number of Palestinians are still alive are going to have to deal with constant tut-tutting by the remaining Israeli population, you know? Like, whatever version of the Gaza Strip exists, whether it's like fully occupied or partially occupied or whatever, you know, the remaining Palestinians, it's like, well, don't you do Hamas again? You remember what they did to you the last time, right? Will we ever see justice for Palestinians in our lifetime, do you think? I mean, at some point, the Israeli state is going to collapse. It exists in like an unstable formation right now. So there's like that, but in a real sense, not really, no. Probably not. What's the half-life on fascism? It's not long, but keep in mind it's only been a year since October 7th.